Coming up on this episode of DL Weekly, Halloween time is about to begin at the resort. We have all the details, including all of the amazing foods.
Breakfast moves back into a popular location. D23 live streaming. We finish our conversation with Philander and more. DL Weekly starts now.
Well, hello there. Welcome to our unbirthday party. For your safety, please be sure to stay listening with your hands, arms, feet, and ears inside the podcast. And please, do give Tag and Teresa easier trivia questions. Well, it seems DL Weekly is about to begin. Have a most wonderful time. Perhaps tea time.
Hello and welcome to this episode of DL Weekly for the week of August 31st, 2022. I'm Teresa Urban.
And I'm Tag Bushman. We want to send a shout out and a big thank you to Thomas F. and Lisa A. for becoming official weekly tiers on our Patreon. Our supporters get some pretty fun perks like DL Weekly swag, bonus content, access to our Discord community, and more. If you would like some more Disney magic in your day, head on over to dlweekly.net/support to join the community. Just a quick note that our August perks will go out with our September perks, which will be probably a little bit late because of the fact that we're going to be with D23. The reason August went out is the cards that we use, we have had a hard time replenishing, and Teresa worked it all out today, so hopefully
Fingers crossed.
We will have them all out to you guys after D23 next month. So don't think we've forgotten about you. The perks are coming. Another
program note, too, is for all of our supporters at the $5 or AP and above levels. Be on the lookout. Our bonus episode will be dropping in the next couple of days for this month, too.
Oh, it's dropping the same day as this episode, so it should be out on Patreon.
Well, just wanted to send a reminder. We, of course, are having our awesome meetup, our weekly tier meetup during D23. It will be at the Disneyland Hotel near the fireplace over at Trader Sam's on Saturday, September 10th from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. If you can please stop by for any amount of time, we would love to see you, love to say hi, love to chat. Again, we will be at the expo the entire weekend, and we will spend some time at the parks too. So if you see us, please say hi.
Yes, we love to see all of you. Well, if you're going to the expo, I mean, by this point, you probably have already booked your accommodations. But if you're planning a future trip, please go and stay at our friends over at the Howard Johnson Anaheim. We've partnered with them to offer you guys some cool discounts. Weekly tiers can get 15% off your stay, and Magic Key holders get 20% off. So to take advantage of these discounts, head on over to dlweekly.net and click on the Howard Johnson logo. Be sure to use the promo codes on our website to get the discount that you qualify for.
Now let's get to the news.
The official start to Halloween time at the resorts is just a couple days away. Many of the decorations are up for guests to enjoy. The Mickey pumpkin was installed on Main Street. Cars Land is decked out for the holiday, and decor for Oogie Boogie Bash can be seen as well. The Redwood Creek Challenge Trail is currently being transformed into Villains Grove. However, the trail is open during the day for guests to enjoy, with more decor added nightly. The two new villains coming to Oogie Boogie Bash have their stages set up.
Spoiler, magic spoiler, if you're trying to avoid who these people are, we're about to say who they are.
Madam Mim will be greeting guests back by the Hyperion Theater, and Mother Gothel will be on the Grizzly River Trail.
It's wild to me that we got teasers for who the two new villains were. They never officially announced that who they were specifically, yet they have their new treat trail stages out in broad daylight for everyone to see. So it was like this big mystery and like, ooh, who's it going to be in it? They got drummed up all the excitement, and then I feel like the delivery was kind of like, and there they are.
Yeah.
But they look very cool.
Yeah, and you're going to be very excited to see that. I know both of them, right? But Madam Mim is
for
like
sure. Mim, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to see
thing
Mim.
that you're excited about. Of course, the Mickey pumpkin is always a great highlight of the Halloween time celebration. Cars Land probably is decorated the best of anywhere in the resort, I would guess, just theming wise.
As of this recording, the main things that were still missing, what the Halloween tree hadn't been decked out yet. That was
Frontierland?
Yep, in front. The Halloween tree over in Frontierland had not been decked out yet, and of course, the other big thing, the Nightmare Before Christmas overlay is not yet open, but it seems like pretty much everything else is is ready to go.
I didn't see that you talked about it in the news, but I want to, since we're talking about decoration and stuff, what do you think is going on with the Mickey floral in front? It is behind like way more
walls than ever. Yeah, like they didn't even have this many walls up when they switched it over from Mickey to Minnie, and that was a pretty big like change.
So here's my thought.
Do you think they're going to do pumpkin Mickey? They just replanted Mickey though. That's what I'm confused about.
Well, do you think that they're going to do something special for D23? Like, can you imagine if they planted the whole thing with like blue flowers to be like D23? Like that's what I was thinking, because they not only do they have the walls, but they've got like tarp stuff covering like higher up.
They don't want anyone peeking in there.
Yeah, so something, and they're going to have Disney Plus Day the day before D20. So I'm wondering if they're going to do something special with that, because that'd be kind of cool.
Maybe.
Because rarely do they cover up the Mickey floral.
Right, yeah. I don't know. Well, see, the thing I was thinking is that they were going to do something special for Halloween time, right?
Yeah.
Since 'tis the season. But they just replanted Mickey not that long ago, like to the point that they had replanted Mickey and it was kind of hard to see where Mickey was because the flowers weren't blooming yet. So it was kind of, everything was kind of green. So Mickey kind of blended into the rest of the background.
Mm-hmm.
I just, every other time that they do stuff to Mickey floral, it's like boom overnight. It's like you didn't even know something happened.
That's why I'm thinking it's going to be something special.
It's got to be something big. I'm hoping that it's something fun and special and then there wasn't some like issue that they're having to like fix. Like maybe, I don't know, like the irrigation issue. Like, I don't know. I'm just making stuff up.
The only other thing I can think of with something like that I think somebody brought up online was, farmers, right? Like when they farm a field for too long, like certain nutrients and stuff go out of it. Well, do they need to maybe put potting soil or something in there?
I don't know. The thing that, like I said, the thing that confuses me the most is that Mickey had just been replanted pretty recently, like within the past couple of weeks. Had been replanted. So I don't know. It's pretty wild. I'm excited to see what it is when the walls and the tarps all come down. One thing I do want to mention, back to Oogie Boogie Bash, is I'm as excited as I am that we're getting new villains. I'm also a little sad about it because Madam Mim's Treat Trail stage is located where the Mad Hatter used to be.
Sure.
And Mother Gothel is located where the Evil Queen used to be. So I'm hoping, because we added these two new villains, that doesn't mean that we also booted two villains, if that makes sense. I feel like we were talking about this in our Discord chat. There's a lot of trails that aren't themed and they're just Treat Trail only. So we were hoping that the new villains would kind of get spread out and we'd have more villain trails overall.
Right.
Same amount of treat trails, but more trails with villains. So, I don't know. I'm curious. Do you think the Mad Hatter and the Evil Queen are out?
I hope not. I feel okay. So
the Mad Hatter was so cool.
The Mad Hatter was cool, but I don't know the like staying power of the Mad Hatter. But the Evil Queen is like a staple.
Classic, yeah.
Maybe they're moving her to one of the other trails that didn't have something.
I don't know.
Because she was just kind of up on the platform, right? Like she wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't have.
She had a cauldron.
Because didn't the Mad Hatter had more of a setup, didn't he, or no?
No, he had like a chair that he was sitting on.
See, they could move both of those.
I think so too. Because I would think like,
who was in the back of Soren there that we saw?
Maleficent.
Maleficent should be in a more
prominent location. Yeah, I think so too. The one that is interesting to me that I wouldn't think. I don't get me wrong, loved her, but I don't feel like there's as much staying power for two actually. Agatha, like that was very timely because WandaVision had just come out.
Is she gonna be back this year?
I don't know. Yeah. So I was thinking if they're going to get rid of two, I was thinking maybe it would be Agatha and maybe Cruella, because I feel like when they had Cruella, the young version of Cruella, not the animated version of Cruella, I don't know what the staying power is for that either. But the thing that's nice about Agatha is she's in the Marvel era. She's part of the Marvel universe and she's in Avengers Campus, so that makes sense.
I wonder if they'll have. Well, that's not a villain though. Well, no, she is a villain now. I wonder if they'll have Wanda or Scarlet Witch. Yeah, because she was in the parks recently and she's very popular.
Yeah, that's true. Like I said, I loved both of those villains, but I could see that like the timing made a lot of sense for those two villains and maybe not the staying power as some of the other villains have. I don't know. It'll be interesting. Time will tell.
Yeah.
As much as I was trying to stay spoiler free, I've already spoiled a little bit since I've seen what these treat trails look like.
Yeah,
but
I was laughing at you.
I've promised myself I am not looking at Instagram from like through stories and stuff. I will not look at Instagram stories and such from the first Oogie Boogie Bash until we're there.
So it's a week.
Tuesday, hang on. I don't remember the date. It's the Tuesday before Expo. Yep. So next Tuesday, the 6th.
So the 5th will be the last day you look at anything on
any
Instagram.
Stories and stuff. Yep. Because I really want to just
put it in the feed too, right?
Huh?
Like people will post pictures as well. You don't look at the pictures.
So off topic. When I go on Instagram, I just look through stories because I look at Instagram maybe once a day.
Oh.
So I just click through stories. I don't twice a day, I don't scroll.
And I scroll first and then I look at the stories.
Gotcha. So we kind of do it backwards. If I have extra time, then I'll scroll, but I just look at the I look at the reels. Or the stories.
How we both look at things.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Halloween, the food guide is now
finally
out. Well, and worth the wait. The guide contains over 50 ghoulish delights for your taste buds to try. There are so many treats, both sweet and savory, to help you get into the spooky spirit. I don't even know where to start.
Okay. I'm just going to hit my couple things that I like because I know you're going to go off on some crazy rant about all this. I'm just going to say, I'm sure I did not read this, to be honest. I looked at the photos because I'm a visual person when it comes to food. And so of the things I see pictures of, the first thing is the Halloween cake, which is purple colored vanilla sponge, raspberry mousse, fresh raspberries, and candied cocoa nibs at the French market. Looks amazing.
That's on the list. We're trying that.
Okay. This blood orange slush with a swirl of raspberry sauce at the Galactic Grill looks really good. There's a lot of sweet stuff like normal. There's stuff that's been around for a while, like the Mickey Bat cookies and stuff looks good. Another cake, I really do it with the cakes, is I'll have it again. The Monster at the Plaza Inn, the Monster Halloween Cake Devil's Food Cake, colorful white chocolate mousse and buttercream. At the Mint Julep Bar, there is pumpkin spiced Mickey shaped beignets rolled in pumpkin spiced sugar, which sounds good. Of course, I'll let Teresa talk about all the coffees and stuff. This pretzel, which is at the Tomorrowland pretzel cart, it's a toffee pretzel, cream cheese filled pretzel sprinkled with toffee sugar. Sounds really good.
We had that.
Did we?
We did. We had that last year.
With toffee? Well, I'll have it again. It was good. And then I think that was kind of it for stuff. Oh, no, that's not true. That
wasn't for Disneyland.
The the pumpkin pie. Oh, these are all hard floats.
Yeah, they're floats.
I wanted it to not be hard because I don't want alcohol in mine. But there's two that look good. There's a hard apple float and a pumpkin pie hard float at Clarabelle's. And I think that's it. That's not true. I keep saying this. This one Teresa's probably going to talk about, though. At the Hollywood Lounge, there is a prickly pear vodka cocktail. But again, I don't want the vodka. It looks good.
So over at the Hollywood Lounge, there were two that looked interesting to me. And I think we'll have to get, maybe on Oogie Boogie night,
okay,
we'll have to get these. There's a blue rum cocktail, which is rum and orange liqueur with a lemon, lime, and cherry flavors that looks... I don't know if it's the color that looks so great to me or what it is about that, but it's just like
Which
bright.
One is it?
It's like a bright electric blue.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'm also really excited to try the prickly pear vodka cocktail, which is vodka and prickly pear syrup mixed with lemon lime and topped with a glow.
I wonder if you could get that as you'd have to pay the full price probably, but I'd like to get it without the vodka.
Then just go get yourself a paradise.
Oh, is that basically what it is?
Yeah, it's basically a spiked paradise.
And then I think I'm just quickly scrolling through to make sure there wasn't anything else that stuck out from the photos anyway. Obviously, this is not food, but there is a Donald candy corn sipper.
It's so
that looks very cute. Of course, the Mickey popcorn bucket is back again, but this time he glows. These cupcakes look pretty good. All right. I think that is everything that I wanted to point out. Oh, and the Mistress of Evil chocolate cake that's available at the Wine Country Trattoria looks pretty good as well.
I'm assuming that cake is probably going to be the dessert.
I hope so.
For the dining package, for the parade dining package. So things that stood out to me was over at the Carnation Cafe. There is a spicy chicken sandwich, which is hand-breaded fried chicken breast topped in a spicy chili sauce with pepper jack and mustard slaw on a brioche bun. It looks delicious. I'm also very intrigued by the Halloween cake over at the French Market restaurant. But really, the things I'm most excited about, I'm sure nobody could have possibly guessed, are the different cold brews. Over at Red Rose Tavern, there will be a pumpkin cold brew, which is cold brew flavored with pumpkin, vanilla, and spices and topped with whipped cream. I'm surprised you didn't point out the grave stuff that's also at the Red Rose Tavern.
Yeah.
Traditional gray stuff topped with a chocolate tombstone and Halloween sprinkles.
I've been so disappointed. I mean, it's good, but I just want literally the gray stuff. I don't want the stuff that's in the middle or the cookie. I just want the gray stuff.
Sure. So then over in DCA, there's a couple more cold brews I'm excited to try. Over at the Pacific Wharf Cappuccino Cart, there's a pumpkin spiced horchata cold brew, which sounds amazing. Creamy blend of cold brew, pumpkin spice. Oh, it was a creamy blend of cold brew with pumpkin spiced rice and cinnamon beverage. So horchata. Ooh. And then over at the Pim Test Kitchen, there's also a butter pecan cold brew.
That sounds good.
With butter pecan flavor cold brew topped with candied pecans, which yum, yum, yum. At the Pacific Wharf Cafe, it's not a cold brew, but it is coffee related. They have a chocolate espresso bread pudding with creme anglaise, whipped topping, and a gummy eyeball with toasted pecans. That also sounds really, really yummy to me. But other than the cold brews, there's a couple I think I need to be more visual with these churros that they've got, because there's a lot of them that I want to see. Like there's a pumpkin spice churro. I feel like you probably can't go too wrong with a pumpkin spice churro. But the other ones I want to see before I get too excited about it. And then the last thing that's on my list, not very exciting, but for some reason at Smoke Jumpers Grill, they have a cranberry grape punch. That sounds really delicious to me. Yes, cranberry and grape juices, ginger ale, blackberry syrup, blackberry puree, and orange flavor-filled boba. Yum, yum, yum.
I like this Jack Skellington cupcake too.
That's going to be over at the Grand Californian, so we'll have to swing over there.
A lot of goodies there.
We'll have to swing over there and see what we can see.
So, Stephanie, you talk about us sharing everything, and I will tell you that sometimes, last Oogie Boogie Bash, I want to say, when we tried some of their macarons and stuff that they had, they're huge.
Yeah.
So the two of us, and it's kind of funny because with everything, it always seems like I feel like there's not a lot of things that both of us are really excited about once we try it. Usually one of us will be more excited, and then we kind of just go, well, you can just have the rest.
It does work out well that way.
It does. And that's good because sometimes, we don't want to waste anything either. I am very happy about this next story, though. It's also about food again. The River Bell Terrace will be serving breakfast again starting on September 2nd. The new menu has been posted and includes a variety of Southern-inspired dishes. The only thing I'm sad about was it did not look like they had Mickey pancakes unless I missed something.
Well, there's a short stack, whipped butter and warmberry pecan coat. It doesn't specifically say if it's Mickey, though. Yeah. You're right.
The Mark Twain is something that was a breakfast item before, and that's scrambled eggs, bacon, and sausage, and O'Brien potato bites and house-baked biscuit. I wonder if the O'Brien potato bites are the breakfast potatoes they had before, but we'll see.
Maybe. Personally, I'm not a big breakfast person. Give me my cold brew and my coffee, and I'm usually good. But if we were to dine here, my choice would be the biscuits and country gravy.
That's a really good price too, $12.
Love biscuits and gravy. Not a big breakfast person, but biscuits and gravy is definitely one of my go-tos.
Yeah.
The other thing they have too, which I wouldn't order as breakfast, but it sounds really yummy. They have a vanilla and maple monkey bread, which is topped with vanilla ice cream, lemon glaze, and berries. So that sounds a little bit too rich.
Lemon glaze?
Yes. Oh, sounds a little bit too rich. Too much for me for breakfast, but it does sound yummy. D23 has announced that they will be live streaming some of this year's expo panels, including the Legends Awards ceremony and the Parks panel. Fans can watch at d23expo.com/live and on all D23 social platforms like Facebook and YouTube. This is so exciting. So link is in our show notes, but Friday seems to be the big day. Of course, like I already mentioned, they will be at 10:30 is the Disney Legends Awards
Disneyland time.
Yeah. Oh, yes. 10:30 Disneyland time is the Disney Legends Awards ceremony, which is also the Disney 100 is what they're calling it as well. So there's going to be a presentation that also includes the award ceremony. So it's kind of like
it's the big deal. It's the big kickoff.
Like a double whammy kind of thing.
At 1 p.m., they'll have the Disney and Marvel Games Showcase, which will talk about announcements, trailers, and reveals for new and upcoming games from Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Lucasfilm, and the 20th Century Studios.
2:30 p.m., Disney for the Scores podcast live celebrates Marvel music. So we'll be celebrating powerful music of Marvel storytelling. So that sounds fun and interesting as well.
At 4 p.m., they have the Disney Legends in Conversation. So the members that were inducted in that morning will partake in a conversation about their storied careers. That sounds like a really good companion to the Legends ceremony in the morning. Did we register for that?
I registered for that one. I did. And then
by the way, since we're talking about registering, we should know this Friday. If you're going and you've made reservations, they should tell you what you've successfully gotten.
And then to end the evening, 6 p.m. is the D23 Expo Mouse Parade, which is just the ultimate Disney costume contest. I mean, this is fun. Just wild. Wild. It's Saturday, amazing.
It is pretty cool. On Saturday, September 10th at 10:30 a.m., there's Talkin' Pets with the vets of National Geographic. So people from the incredible Dr. Pull from National Geographic and a lot of other people from a lot of the different shows that are on National Geographic and the do vet work will be there. So that's pretty exciting.
At 12 p.m., there will be a panel on Bob's Burgers. 2 p.m., Marvel Comics celebrating 60 years of The Amazing Spider-Man.
At 3:30 p.m., there's the Disney's Epic Entertainment Showcase, the musical The Extravaganza. Oh my goodness. What is with them and their long names? At 6 p.m., there's the D23 Disney Stars Trivia Showdown, which sounds pretty exciting.
So not only does this have Disney trivia, but it also has like physical challenges too. So I don't know if I'd want to take part in this because I would think, what kind of Disney trivia do they have at a Disney Expo? Like, I can't even, like, that's...
What's cool is it's going to have celebrity contestants and audience members.
Yeah, it sounds like it'd be very interesting. And then...
What are we doing at 6 p.m. on Saturday? Are we going to watch this?
I don't remember.
In a room
I don't know.
Out in the...
I don't know. I don't remember what's on our... I don't remember what's on our list of stuff
it's kind of a whirlwind.
Saturday is our Disney Archives Day. That's all I remember.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We're hanging out at the Archives Day.
And then at 6:30 p.m. is Making of the Disney 100, which is the traveling exhibit that will be going around. So they're going to be, the producers from the Archives will be talking about details of the all-new exhibit, which is celebrating 100 years of Disney Wonder, but it's scheduled to premiere at the Franklin Institute in Philadelphia in 2023, but we're hoping that we'll get other dates on where else you'd be able to catch this.
Sunday, September 11th is a big one at 10:30 a.m. Of course, everybody listening to this podcast would be excited to watch A Boundless Future, Disney Parks Experiences and Products. So this is going to have Josh D'Amaro there to talk about announcements and updates on everything that's happening in the parks around the world, on the cruise ships and beyond. So this could be a lot of fun, and we're hoping for some great announcements.
1 p.m., the Walt Disney Imagineers, 70 years of making the impossible possible. I know this is one that we signed up to go see, but basically Walt Disney Imagineers, you know, kind of like behind the scenes, talking with Imagineers past and present as they kind of discuss the elements and of storytelling and the innovation that brings these dreams, you know, from a dream to reality. Sound so cool. At
3:45 p.m., explore the world with the next generation of National Geographic. So these have a lot of their National Geographic stars that are a little bit younger that are going to be there talking about all that stuff. So that'll be really cool. And finally,
5 p.m., D23 Disney Stars Trivia Showdown, apparently round 2. So again,
how exciting.
Celebrate contestants and audience members going through all sorts of fun Disney games. So I'm really excited, shocked, and so happy that they're live streaming this many things. I thought 1 to 2 things a day max, and I did not think they would be doing the big ones. I didn't think the parks panel or that the Legends ceremony would be live streamed for all, but I think it's so cool that they're making this available to those that aren't able to be in the room where it happens.
So the question is, if they're going to live stream the next time, do you even try to get in on the panels for these things?
I don't know. It's hard to say because there was just, it was so cool to be in. We were able to experience both the Legend ceremony and the Parks panel. The Parks panel by far was my favorite, though. but we got to experience cool things like Dick Van Dyke
That's true.
on stage. And I mean, is that exciting and fun to see, live streaming?
Right.
Yes, but I feel like it's different to be there and experience it. There's just an energy level in these rooms. So if I had the choice to either be in the room or watch it, I would 100% choose in the room, even though in the room you don't always have the best view because it is a very, very large room. But yeah.
I wonder if they're going to have these somewhere to look at afterwards.
I hope so.
Like, it'd be cool for us to be like, let's say the parks panel. If we get in the parks panel, it'd be cool to be there. But then sometimes it might be nice to be able to reflect back and maybe get a better view of something or whatever. The other thing that I'm very excited about with the parks panel is if they do announce something for Tomorrowland, the entire room is going to explode.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that. Well, cast members are the heart and soul of Disneyland and are what makes each visit so magical. Disney has now made it easier for guests to submit cast compliments. The new mobile cast compliment feature is now available in the Disneyland app. So how do you get to it?
I think this is so exciting because we, like many people, have had fantastic cast member experiences. We will, of course, ask if we can take a photo of the cast member's name badge so we remember their name and their hometown so that when we go in
and it
later
tags it by a time,
and time, so then when we go in later to submit the cast compliment, we can kind of refresh our memory. I love that I could have an amazing cast experience and within seconds I can be writing up my cast compliment. I think that's going to make it so that it's easier for people to be able to use the feature and get their compliments out there. It's going to be more top of mind for people because let's face it, when you come home from your Disney vacation, you're so caught up in the excitement sometimes that you can forget to actually go through and submit your cast compliments. When it used to be that you could walk into City Hall to do it, we would try and do that, on the last day of the trip and get multiple compliments in. So I'm just so excited that, for example, say we're at a restaurant and we're having just amazing time with the person that's waiting on us, that I can just be right there and get it. I just love that I can do it right away. I just love that so much because I think they're going to get so many more of these cast compliments submitted because they're making it easier.
So to get to it in the app, there's in the very bottom right-hand corner, there's the little menu icon. And if you scroll past all the little blocks, it's almost towards the bottom. It's one of the smaller menu items called Cast Compliment. And when you tap on that, I feel like this is really going to streamline getting it to the proper place because there's a drop down that says, I'd like to say thanks for, and then you choose from a list of types of things you're complimenting. So, making us feel included and accepted for who we are, doing your best to keep everything sparkling clean, etc. Locations, so you can pick, they've got the different areas. So like if I select Disneyland Park, they've got areas, it brings up another menu for main entrance ticketing, Main Street, etc. So I'll say main entrance. Then it gives me parking, ticketing, dining, shops, custodial. So that's really nice. And then under the optional section, they have a cast member first name, which you'll get from their name tag. And then cast member hometown is listed on their name tag. This must really help them whittle down to who it is. So if it's a common name like a Bob or a Chris or a Kate or something like that, doing that, and then the date of your interaction, and then you just hit submit. And so I think that's great. And hopefully this will cut down on the crazy length of the line at City Hall to do these, and it'll encourage people to do them more often.
You know what I'm not liking about this, though? I want a little box in here that I can type up.
Like specifically what it was?
So I can explain in my own words what my magic moment was. I don't like that it's just
pre-selected.
A couple of drop downs and that's it. So I hope in the future they make an optional box so that you can type up and explain what the situation was. Because sometimes I think that's really important because you can have, great experience, but how do you pick from a list of drop downs like when a cast member makes magic for you? You can't surmise that with these drop downs. So hopefully this is like maybe phase 1 or something, and in the future we'll be able to be a little bit more specific. If not, I might continue to use other channels so that I can more appropriately call out and thank cast members for the job that they're doing versus kind of this generic little field. I still like it. I still like that it's at my fingertips, but I just want a little bit more.
I think they were trying to streamline it as much as possible.
Yeah, that's probably it. Well, speaking of cast members, at long last, the Silhouette Studio on Main Street has reopened. This hidden gem and unique Disney souvenir spot is one of the few remaining experiences to reopen since the park closures. The studio will be open to guests from noon until 8 p.m. Mondays through Thursdays, and on 8 a.m. until park close Fridays through Sundays.
Yeah, I was wondering about that because I feel like before when they were open, they didn't have limited hours, so it's good to see that, like, at least on the busy times of the weekends, it'll be open basically.
Park close, though. I didn't realize they were that late.
Yeah. I think that you and I should stop in there and get a podcast one because
there you go.
They're not very expensive. No, they're very fast.
It's like $11 or $12 per person, I want to say. It's for what it is the most affordable souvenir experience, because it's both. It's a souvenir and experience all in one. The talent these people have and the fact that they can cut your silhouette profile in like a minute is just mind-boggling to me. If I didn't have to like sit still and like look straight ahead, I would love to just sit there and watch them do it. It's so, talk about magic.
Maybe
that is so magical.
And I need to get one, and then you need to watch while I'm getting it, and then we get one together.
There you go. I'm so happy that they're back. Because this is kind of one of those things. It's just really, what is the benefit to Disney to offer the service? But it's just so unique, so Disney, and it's like a hidden gem. I don't know how many people really know what this is or have had this done. Yes, a lot of big Disney nerds like us know what this is and like know how special this is. But just like your average tourist, how many people even know that it's there? So I think when you look at the big business side of it, it's not raking in big bucks. It's not, nothing. So really
$12 per face.
Yeah. So really business wise, I could see them just saying, you know what? We could put some, I don't know, Spirit jerseys in there instead or whatever, make it more retail space. So I'm very, 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 very happy that the Silhouette Studio survived and that it's back.
And it's such kind of a unique thing.
It's so cool. It's just so cool.
DLWeekly announces the boarding of the Trivia Express, non-stop star speeder service to the moon of Endor. All passengers, please prepare for immediate boarding.
It's so exciting that it's episode 250. Welcome to Trivia Land. I am excited to hopefully...
It is episode 250.
It is.
Make that big 0 at the end look like a good 0 for your trivia score this week.
Let's hope.
Only one way to find out. Let's go into our first question. My question for you is, what 2 characters are featured on the Lost Parents sign?
I know. I love this sign so much.
What 2 characters?
Yes.
Are featured... I feel like it's got to be like Peter Pan and Wendy or something, right? Like Lost Boys or something.
I think it's Peter Pan and Wendy.
Yeah, well, you obviously know the answers. So you're just like, oh, you think it's that, huh?
Therese is feeling my joy every week.
This is terrible. I know who they are, but I don't know the characters' names. It's Wendy. It's the parents. It's Wendy's parents.
Oh, Peter.
Darlings.
Peter, and I don't remember what the mom's name is. Darling. Isn't it Peter? Peter Darling?
I don't think it's Peter.
Not Peter.
But it's the Darlings.
There we go. Tag, I assume you're going with that one as well?
I wrote them down for Peter Pan and Wendy.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, that's the answer I gave.
Very good. Our second question comes from listener Matt M. The Disneyland ride Midget Autopia ran in Fantasyland from 1957 until 1966. When it closed, the ride moved somewhere new. And I'm not talking about somewhere in this local California area, where it ran until 1977. Where did it go to?
Did it go to Marceline, Missouri?
It did. Marceline, Missouri.
Can you be more specific?
It went to
the Walt Disney Family History Museum.
Is that what it's called?
No, it's not. It's the
Walt Disney Hometown Museum?
Yeah. As soon as I said that, I'm like, nope.
You said family, and I'm like, I think that's the San Francisco one.
That is the San Francisco one. The Walt Disney
Hometown Museum.
Hometown, yep.
All right, moving on. Our third question this week. In It's a Small World, how many dolls represent the United States?
Ooh.
How many dolls?
Yep.
So let's
Well,
see.
there's Jessie and Woody.
Does Bullseye count as a doll?
Yeah, does Bullseye count as a doll?
We'll skip Bullseye for this one, but I like
There's
the spirit of what you're
There's
going.
a Scarecrow, but he's not actually a doll.
Does the Scarecrow count as a doll?
No, because it's just a cutout.
No.
Okay.
I think there's a couple. I think there's some Native Americans too. I'm gonna say 5.
I'm going to go crazy and be wrong, and I'm just going to say 2. Just Woody and Jesse.
It might be. That might totally be right.
But do they show up again in the finale? Because like all the countries show up at the end in the finale.
Don't know.
I'll just say 2. I'm sure I'm wrong, but
We had a good run tag. The first 2 we did okay with.
And our final question this week is a nod to something our patrons are getting this month. As our bonus episode for those who are official weekly tiers, we played a little game of DLWeekly Weekly Tier Family Feud. I polled the audience, and they gave us some top answers. So if you want to hear more of how TNT did guessing what the weekly tiers like or think, here's a little preview. So my question for you two is, according to the listeners who we surveyed, what attraction do you think goes the fastest? I'm only looking for the top answer.
In all of the Disneyland Resort?
In the whole resort.
Did we determine, so in the real answer, was it Screamin', right?
Yeah.
Is the fastest, because it gets up to like 55 or something?
The Incredicoaster, yeah.
Incredicoaster, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to say Incredicoaster.
I don't know why Screamin' always is like stuck in my head. Just like I always want to say Tower of Terror.
I mean, you've been saying it for years and just getting that sometimes it just takes time to change.
But it's from our listeners, so I almost wonder if our listeners think it's like Space Mountain or something.
I'm sticking with Incredicoaster.
Yeah, I'll stick with Incredicoaster. No,
Okay.
I'll stick with Incredicoaster. We could be wrong together.
Joy, this last one, it's an opinion question, so which one do you think the listeners agree with? How'd you do at home? Are you feeling pretty good like these two are? You'll have to wait until after our discussion topic this week to find out how we did.
For our discussion topic this week, we are concluding our interview with Philander, so please enjoy.
So I want to ask this before we wrap up, because I think this will be a fun question. It's question 3, because we just jumped right in. I want to know what your favorite attraction is.
Okay, so that one is challenging for me.
Yeah.
Try to keep it short-winded, because I could, in theory, go off on a huge tangent for it. For me, I look at every attraction has... I have a love for it, and I realize its importance and its job at Disneyland. So everything has a job at Disneyland, and once the job is over for that attraction, then I understand why it leaves. So despite the fact that people have a ton of nostalgia for so many things, I look at it both for its nostalgia, its importance to Disneyland, and then its job. Is it still doing its job? So when people say, "I don't like this ride, why it's still here," I'll talk to them about either its nostalgia, or it's important to that, or its job. Like it's one of those 3 things why it's still there. So for me, attractions are hard because I have a lot of love for them specifically. And then also it's hard now to love them because now you have both nostalgia of like older attractions, but also the incredible nature of these new experiences that are being designed by Imagineering. So for me, mine is kind of a 2-part one. Because I love Star Wars so much, I cannot not put Rise of Resistance up there. Yeah. Because that attraction, one, obviously is a technological marvel, one, and then it is a Star Wars fan's dream as well. So I could not have that included. But pre-Rise of the Resistance, my favorite attraction before that was the Haunted Mansion, or still is the Haunted Mansion. And I hold that in regard as one of the most unique and special attractions for multiple reasons. And then also the perfect storm nature as to how it was created as well. Like there's so much that went into that attraction that is, I think, unique amongst so many others. Because I know a lot of people hold Haunted Mansion and Pirates of the Caribbean as like this top, like in theory, everyone should have at least one of those 2 in their top 5. Technically, I would say. If you don't, I'm like, one of those should be in everyone's top 5, like without a doubt. You can't include, like I imagine, obviously we'll say like Space Mountain, Indiana Jones, they'll put Racers, Guardians of the Galaxy, but in Pirates and Haunted Mansion need to be at least one of those needs to be in your top 5. But for Haunted Mansion, to me, there's so many little things that add up to a big thing for me in that. And one of the things that resonates the most for me about that attraction, other than how much of that the setup for it is like stunning, and why I love Haunted Mansion and Pirates, but I always put Mansion a little bit higher. One, because the queue is the setup. So, and I think about, imagine you're doing, let's say it's the 2 of you by yourself, because an Imagineering designs a ride, they're looking at it from not the fact that it's funneling a ton of people through it. That obviously is very important, but your experience when you go through it. So you're stepping into a Haunted Mansion. You see these, the white building, it's gorgeous. You walk inside and imagine there's no one around. Imagine the ride is just running itself. So not a single cast member that's there. Or even for Haunted Mansion's sake, imagine the cast member is there and they're being all spooky as usual. So they beckon you into this spooky building. The two of you walk in. You're in a foyer that has 2 doors, and it's all spooky. And the cast member, the person shuts that door behind you. So now the two of you are in this very creepy room, and you're like, okay. Then this ominous voice, Paul Frees, pops up, and he's like setting up the tone for you. You're like, okay, this is weird. Then magically, a door opens. You're like, okay. You walk into this door, and now you're in a room with no doors, and that door closes behind you, and you're like, okay, this is really weird. Then the room starts stretching, and the voice comes back, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is weird. And then you see the whole thing with the body. Then a wall opens up, and now there's a long hallway. No one's in the hallway all the way down. You're like, oh my God, this is weird. And the voice comes back, and now you have these porch and there's lightning outside. And you turn the corner, and now there's these buggies that are going, and they're moving on their own. Like, this whole setup is like, oh my gosh, it's so good. And Pirates doesn't really have that. You kind of go into the building, and the boats are there. And no knock against Pirates. It is amazing. But that setup, because that is very reminiscent of Rise of Resistance, this like setup to the attraction, or attraction within an attraction. That the stretching room is an attraction in itself before the queue, but part of an overall queue experience. So all that setup is such a big deal to me. The perfect storm nature, the fact that the facade was there in 63, but didn't open in 59. I still to this day think about like how people now in this world of social media would not be able to physically handle that.
Nope,
like
they wouldn't.
They would be literally like vomiting in there about the fact that this building has been sitting there for 7 years and you don't get to do it. People would not be able to handle that today. Like they would be like, what? They would just be tearing their hair out over that, because people are freaking out over Tarzan being out and done. And that's only been down for like, 6-8 months. And that's just a treehouse, let alone a full on attraction. People would be tearing their hair out trying to figure out, what is this thing? What is this thing? But also the fact that resonates the most with me is that was the first attraction that Imagineering had to work on without Walt. And that resonates so much, because you'll hear from those Imagineers at the time. I think it was John Hench who was saying like, they were like, after he passed away, can we even do this without him? Like, Pirates was 3 months for being open, and Walt had a heavy hand in that. And that's not a big deal. But Mansion, like, they're like, can we make this happen without him? You have one guy who answers every question. Should we do this or this? Walt says, do this. Should we do this or this? Walt says, do this. That's nuts to me. Like they were like, this is weird. We're in new territory here. So the fact that they not only did it and did it so well that it is now one of the most iconic rides, that kind of was the wind beneath their wings to push them forward. Like, we can do this without him. Like, we're going to be okay. And I love, and that resonates with me so much about that attraction. Then the fact that ride had 2 art directors, which is very rare. Usually you have one person that's guiding the whole thing. And you have obviously Mark Davis and you have Claude Coates, 2 very different things. We love Haunted Mansion for how it is now. But in theory, if Walt was still alive, he would have picked only one of them to do that job. So Mark would have done it alone, and it would have had more of the humor elements in it, or Claude would have done it, and it would have been more of the scary elements. So the fact that Walt did not make it to it is the reason we have the Haunted Mansion the way we have it now. The one we love is the one that did not have Walt's hand in it. And that, to me, like when I think too much about that, my head is like spinning now, because I'm like, Walt would have made very specific changes to that attraction and would have had it in theory one way or the other. I doubt he would have had 2 art directors for it, because that just doesn't happen that often. And I think, and all those things resonate to me into like this, this overall love for this ride. Then the last one here to close it all out is the fact that people still to this day are in awe of that Pepper's Ghost effect. Still. Yeah. And that is an illusionist trick from the 1800s. And the fact that people still believe it to be like some computer, some digital mapping, some projection, that still blows people away. And that was done, obviously Yale Gracie made this beautiful version of it now, like that works so well, but that was even before him. And the fact that people still imagine that to be far more than what it is, like, still blows me away. Where I tell them, oh no, that's just glass and light. Like, there's nothing more to it than that. Like, I even tell you can get a flashlight and do it at home, and stare out your window and do it. But the fact that people still look at it like, wow, that's so realistic. How do they do that? That to me is like the selling point to why Mansion, not only to me, I look at it as the greatest attraction, and that, not only also because that's audiometronics and many other things, but that is also why I hold it as like my top one like that. And then I love that Rise of Resistance took a lot from Haunted Mansion and Pirates of the Caribbean. That like, because Pirates and Haunted Mansion are like, talking to the Imagineers who worked on Rise that I've gotten to meet, have said, yeah, they're like, what if you went into Pirates of the Caribbean, you took your boat ride in, and then the boat stopped and you got to get out and walk through the town. And that's a lot of what Rise of Resistance is, because now you're moving through a Star Destroyer or you're walking through a Haunted Mansion. You're doing a little bit like that. And they took a lot from those two rides to make Rise of Resistance. So I would say Rise is a little bit of Indiana Jones, Pirates of the Caribbean, and Haunted Mansion, that like walking through themed environments, to get to what is actually coming later on. More so Pirate or Mansion, because you get the attraction before the attraction with the stretching room, where you're unaware of, again, first ride that you're going into like, this thing is going to move now. I'm like, whoa, what's happening? Because you still get that from people who've never been before, that have not done enough research to know that this is a stretching room, or that the ship in Rise is going to take you somewhere else. And you get that kind of lived in feeling of like, I'm now in an environment. I'm part of a story. I'm walking through a Haunted Mansion. It's why I don't care as much for the Haunted Mansion in Florida, because they make the portrait hallway part of the attraction.
Yeah.
And walking through a Haunted Mansion is the creepy part, not riding through it. And it's walking down a scary corridor. That is the real, like, I love their Haunted Mansion still, but I like ours more because you get that creepy walk down the hallway space. And of course, I'm not talking about when it gets backed up and it happens where you're like stuck in that hallway.
You're stuck in the stretching room. That's happened to us.
But when it's, it's running properly and they didn't have to stop it for a guest, wheelchair or anything like that, when you get to go through and it's like constantly moving, that's the kind of creep instilling part. Because you still see it now. Adults won't get scared, but kids are like, they're like, what is going on here? Like they are looking at it very different, because they are looking at it as like, this is very creepy and unsettling, and your parents are trying to reassure you it's okay, it's just a ride. But to a kid who's like my daughter, I remember when I first took it on, she's like, this is very unsettling in here, it's very creepy. So all of those kind of like come together for my overall love for Mansion, and I could wax poetic about so many other attractions like that, but that is more why Mansion kind of lives in this special place for me. And then also like a who's who of Imagineering who worked on it. Oh man, like just, you're naming off like legends one after the other who all contributed to that, that all are, to create this beautiful thing. And then without the hand of Walt there, that, they all had to do it on their own. That is like peak for me.
I always ask people to explain why they pick Pirates or why they pick Haunted. I don't think anybody could explain it as well as you just did.
Yeah, that's like the battle between the two of them, like the Battle for New Orleans, you could say. That is why I give Mansion just a tiny bit more than Pirates,
Well, and there's something wild about Mansion and then also Rise, where you don't, when, because, right, there's wait times. So it's always like, oh, it's, 20 minutes to get on the attraction. I genuinely don't know when that attraction starts, because everything else, right, you get on a vehicle and that's the start, and then you go. Whereas that, you could argue as soon as you walk through the front gate of the mansion, it started. I mean, for a timing purposes, obviously that's how it starts. Same thing with Rise. Like there's a certain point in the queue that is probably more of the start to the story. And I think that's just so wild and so
I feel like when the story, like, I mean, but it's tough because you say story, right? So you're right.
Because you've got the pet cemetery, you've got the tombs.
But like for me, I feel like, because you made the good argument that when you get on the ride vehicles to start. And now I was a guest on the Supreme Resort, and they were doing this bracket, and Haunted Mansion ended up winning, like best attraction, best pre-show, best pre-show. It was all just pre-show. And they were explaining that the stretching room and everything is the pre-show. And I'm like, that's interesting, because for me, the second you get into the stretching room, well, the second you have the narration in the foyer, I feel like that's the beginning of the attraction. Yeah. Even though that's apparently not. Rise of Resistance, I think, when you go in that room and Ray shows up, that's the beginning of the attraction.
But the story's building up to that point. That's why it's like, well, when does it really start?
Smuggler's Run, when you walk in and Hondo's there, that's the beginning of that story for me. Even though there's still more line and queue and stuff. Just crazy. Yeah,
it's like when people decide where the narrative begins. Like, what's the narrative of the attraction? When do you finally get that? Because other than the cast members outside of Rise telling you, like, good luck on your mission, recruits. That's the only bit of like strong narrative you get, knowing, okay, this guy who obviously is dressed like someone from the Resistance is telling me good luck on a mission that I'm signing myself up for. So you get like a tiny bit there. And until Ray sets you up in the ready room with BB-8, you truly get it, because then you get like this cue. Because a good example of that is Indiana Jones. Not until you get to Sala do you actually hear any audio, but you can argue that prior to that, with all of like the signage on the walls, thing like watch out for the spikes, you're getting like a little bit of narrative there as well. When you talk about like some of Imagineering's best designed cues, that you go through, or how many pre-shows. And then Rise, like already like that attraction has like 4 pre-shows in it, which we've never done before.
Well, that attraction's like 3 attractions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you got like the little simulator thing in the beginning, and then you've got the trackless part, and then you've got the drop simulator kind of thing. I mean,
4 attractions, crazy. I think 3 pre-shows, because you count BB-8 and Ray, that's a pre-show. Then you get the ITS, which is a pre-show. Then you get Kylo Ren and Hux was a pre-show. Like all of this is just extending a narrative over and diving you deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And the fact that they would, that's just why I love Rise, even set aside from Star Wars, you could make any ride like that, and I would love it the most. For them, that is the most that Imagineering has ever committed to story. Because a pre-show is a great way, 1, to set your narrative, but 2, to also extend the queue to make it feel like you're not waiting. So it has a dual purpose. Once you get inside to Ray, you're still in line, but you just don't feel like it anymore, because now you're getting assaulted by story at the same time. So it's a great way to like, if Rise Resistance is 30 minutes or 50 minutes long, 20 of that minutes, you're being heavily entertained, before you actually get to the actual vehicle itself. And they've never committed that much. Also think of Rise is that attraction has 2 costumes. Which attraction do you know that has 2 costumes for it?
That's
not
true.
a 1. And it's amazing the commitment to that, because if you all won't necessarily see this unless you get evacuated from Rise or Resistance, but they have doorways in there that say, don't go in this doorway. So like for the cast members, there's break rooms inside of Rise or Resistance for them to all go in and sit down, have lunch or whatnot, or, just chill or relax while they are not supposed to be on stage. But when they're inside there, they can't go through specific doorways in there, because they will break the show of that attraction. So as an example, there's a doorway, like an emergency, there's like a restroom there, or if you get walked out, there's a doorway that takes you out to the hangar. If the cast member is dressed in Resistance attire, they cannot go through that doorway, because now you're going to break show, because Resistance is only supposed to be in the room where they put you in the vehicle. Or imagine all the First Order cast members, you never see them outside because they can only be inside. So when those cast members have shifts, especially on hot days, I'm sure they really love that. They spend the entire time indoors. Other than going out to maybe get their lunch, they don't see outside of Batuu at all, because story-wise, they cannot go out there. So I love also that commitment to story, where you have 2 separate costumes. So those cast members, either on Monday, they're Resistance, on Tuesday, they're First Order, and it just changes back and forth for them. They got
to look down and go, I can't go through that door.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. If I walk through that door, I'm going to be like, well, this is not where I'm supposed to be right now. Resistance, you'll never see a First Order cast member standing outside of Rise Resistance, because that's a break of story.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, that commitment to storytelling, they've never done that for any other attraction. It's always 1 costume for everybody all the way down the line. Like it's always the same. But for them to commit that much to really engaging you in that story is important. Because I've jokingly talked about with friends, what's the Imagineering version of Rise Resistance where you can tell they cut corners, like what would they cut? So you, as an example, you could say a great one is, so Ray and BB-8 are in the ready room, and then you step out of the ready room and you see Poe's ship, and you see the ITS ship that you're going to get in. A cheaper version of Rise of Resistance has them on a video screen show your ship come down and settle next to the room you're in, and then the door opens and you see the ship there. But they took the extra step to have you go back outside and see the physical ship there. And they built it, and then Poe's X-Wing, because they could very easily have you walk directly from Ray and BB-8 into a ship and you would not see the ship at all. But they wanted you to see it and to get that visual of it. That's the same thing where I always tell people to turn around, which they never do. When you get in the hangar and you see the First Order stormtroopers there, that's like obviously awe-inspiring. But you turn around and the ship is there with you, because they could have also made it where the doors open, you just appear in the Star Destroyer. But the fact that you turn around and see the ship has made the journey with you is the whole selling point of the entire thing. The fact that you go through that door and you come out the exact same door, but the ship is behind you. but no one ever
Just
looks around.
Blew
I'm like,
my
look,
mind.
this-
Why, you didn't notice that?
I've never turned around.
Oh, yeah, man. That's
Next
like the
time
first
I'm
thing I
turning
did.
around.
Yeah,
No,
that
because
the
I got
ship
too
is
sucked.
in the same
Got too
space.
sucked into the stormtroopers.
The fact that, and I love it because that still blows people away about how that effect is achieved, because they're like, did we go down? Did we go up? Like, they know there was movement, but they don't know how it happened. But the fact that you see the ship you walk into, and then you can turn around and see the ship you walk into, obviously it's two separate ships to make the effect work, but it's that made the journey there with you at the same time.
Yeah.
And that kind of attention to detail is like the best part of attractions of that magnitude, that they are willing to spend the money to create this very elaborate experience that in theory we know it's not real, of course, and that we would be fine if that ship wasn't there. No one would be upset about it, but it's just that extra level of detail that they will put into something that makes it seem that much more believable. Also, another little small detail that no one ever really notices, if you ride that attraction, when the ship is first kind of moving into the Star Destroyer, if you look at the bottom of the screen, either if you're at the very back or one of the little screens up there that's going into the hangar, you can see the stormtroopers running out to line up.
Oh, yeah. I see that.
You can see
I love if you look up and you can see like the whoop of when you go through
and you see that you pass through.
One that I think nobody pays attention to, or few people pay attention to, is when you're in the holding cell and they're walking, the shadow is projected out onto the thing. And the last time I was on there, we were on there with somebody who had never been on it. And I said, watch this. This is so cool. Watch this shadow. Oh, we weren't on it. I was showing my brother, who's kind of a Star Wars fan. He was here from Turkey. We didn't get to go to Disneyland. But I showed him a video of that attraction. And I was like, look at this. Isn't that cool? And he's like, how do they do that? Like, I don't know how it's done. Like, I've looked at videos that talk about how, like, all the, how you get into the ship and where everything is and how it lines up with the upstairs area and all that, which is cool. But like nobody's explained like, well, how does this particular effect work? Yeah,
to make it that convincing that we know this is a projection, but a projection doesn't make shadow. So that's a whole nother mechanism that's creating that movement to make it feel like they are actually walking in front of you and behind you like that. The same thing happens on Web Slingers with Peter Parker. So his shadow is projected behind him. So you see his head back there like that too. And that just adds to the realism of that, to where it makes you feel like they are actually there. And that layered effect of having the kind of like cage thing you're in is real. Then the banister is real. Then the things that are by the screen are real. And then you have that. Now you have this like layered depth that are there. Because at Web Slingers, there's two screens, there, so that you create that shadow effect for Peter, but they also have physical props behind it as well. So that you get this like depth that you would not get if it was just a television screen or a screen that just shows that. But it's that kind of extra attention where if Imagineering is given a big budget, they are allowed to dream big and to do things like that. Because again, the average guest is not going to notice things like that, and they won't care. They won't even remember that cell part because it's a small part of a very big experience. But it's these little things that are so important. And that's why when you think of things like Indiana Jones or Risers, all these massive e-tickets that are being created now, that attention to detail is so important. And why I have to hold those two, even as like, even if someone is not a fan of Star Wars, like it doesn't matter. They could make that a Aladdin ride. If they put that level of detail into an Aladdin ride, then that will be one of my favorite rides. Like to me, it's not, the IP is great, but the attention to detail and story is the most important. And I know not every attraction can be like that. You got to love the little things too. Like, Toy Story Midway Mania is very different from Little Mermaid, from Monsters Inc., from Enchanted Tiki Room. They all have their thing, but the story for me will always be king. And if they dive you into a story really well and have you be a part of it, not just because I like that Imagineering is doing now, which is they didn't do it in the past as much, but they are creating reasons for you to be a part of the story. Not necessarily passive rides, but like ones where you are a part of it. So Space Mountain is very passive. You just sit there and you ride it. But even something as simple as Guardians of the Galaxy, Rocket is asking you to raise your hands to help him. So the attraction happens without you doing it or not, but he needs you to do something for him, whether you do it or not. So you just putting your hands in the air is now you being a part of this. You have helped them, even though you did not necessarily do anything specific.
And I think that I like the buy-in that creates too, because every time we go, more often than not, people are raising their hands than not raising their hands.
Unless they're totally not paying attention. But
people are just like, oh, yeah, we got to do it, And it's, like you said, the doors are going to open, whether we've raised our hands or didn't raise our hands. But it just,
it's buy-in is so great.
Yeah.
It works really well for kids.
Builds the excitement too.
Yeah. And it's like all those really great things. Because even Toy Story is like, you're playing a game, but not necessarily in a very specific narrative. As opposed to Web Slingers, you are helping Spider-Man and Peter Parker do a job like that. Or something like Smuggler's Run, you are doing something there. Or even like, something where you can contribute a little bit to the story, like in some small way, even if the story moves on without you doing it or not. Obviously you can just sit and watch Web Slingers happen. You don't have to actually play it. But I like when they, that level of immersion, because people want to be a part of the stories that they're fans of. They don't want, as an example, you want to, Wizarding World, you want to join Harry, Ron, and Hermione, or you want to help Ray and Finn. You want to assist, the Avengers. You want to become an Avenger. Like, want to do something that is going to assist these characters. You want to be a part of it. You want to join them. Because watching the Avengers is cool, but being with them is cooler. That's where the tie-in comes in. Like getting to help them do something. You feel there's a connective tissue that comes from that you don't get in those other attractions where they weren't necessarily thinking about that back then. Now that has become more of a proponent for creating new attractions where we want a narrative that involves you. So like the why that we talked about earlier, why are you here? Like someone's like, I want to build the Mary Poppins ride. Okay, well, what's the buy-in? Why are we here as guests? What's the thing? Like, why are we visiting the Banks' house? Are they doing something? Like and that's where people, when they think of attractions, they get kind of flummoxed because they just think of a cool concept, but there's no foundation to it at all. Like you have to build. So I hilariously, during the pandemic, in my boredom, like a lot of us had, I mocked up a Big Hero 6 reskin for Star Tours if they ever got rid of it. Where I just created because one, Big Hero 6 is popular enough for them to reskin it. Two, WDI and Disney would save a lot of money by reskinning as opposed to building another attraction. And three, the world of Big Hero 6 fits into Tomorrowland because Hero and the Big Hero 6 team, they deal in future. Like literally all of them are just like scientists. They were they use their mind to build and create concepts and stuff that is like otherworldly. So like Hero's nanotech, or, Wasabi, his blades, that's all like science fiction, so that fits in Tomorrowland. You could very easily build a, Hero school, because that is definitely like a Tomorrowland type thing that the world of San Francisco like works really well. I've also mocked up a San Francisco addition to, got rid of Hollywoodland and built San Francisco there and built I just like me spitballing and writing stuff down, but like coming up with something that's heavy because Big Hero 6, at least, is something that is still popular. The movie did well in the box office, won an Academy Award. They had 2 seasons of a cartoon show. They just had Baymax's cartoon. Tokyo just added a ride for him. So Big Hero, Baymax is a popular character enough to where he's
awesome.
You could feel the company would invest in him as opposed to someone that's saying like, oh, I want them to build a Black Cauldron ride. And like, no one's going to build a Black Cauldron ride. Like nobody's watching that anymore.
A lot of people don't even realize poor Black Cauldron exists.
No, right? Poor Black Cauldron.
That would be cool though.
We spent so much time. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you'd like to talk about?
My fun thing is like, maybe I'll have to come on and see you guys again. I either like to ask. When I find super fans, I will ask the question because I am someone who is very fascinated with the response of people's, like what they think about Disney, because there's not really a lot of right or wrong answers. I'm very curious about asking questions of a lot of people. Like, I spend a lot of time teaching like about Disney, which is great. I like to educate, but I also like I like to hear people's own opinions about things because they're strong because it's something you're very passionate about. So I really appreciate that. So I never have anything that I specifically like to talk about. People like you guys did a great job. You will trigger a response in me. And then I will then like wax poetic for like, half an hour on one question. I'll talk forever about it because there's a lot of content that can be like derived from that one question. So I usually have people ignite me like a firework. And then it will go off like that, as opposed to I never have an agenda necessarily per se, unless someone, because people are either asking me a question and I'm answering a ton about it, or I'm asking them a question and we've created this fascinating conversation about it. So I'm never like, I never have anything to say per se, but like people can get me going pretty easy when it comes to different aspects of Disney or the company or its history or heritage like that.
All right. Well, then here's another question that'll probably light you like a firework, and who knows? There are two jobs personally that I think at Disneyland are amazing, and one is definitely underrated, and the other one is one that people always pick, which is guest relations, which you do, and then the other one
specifically the tours
and the tours, especially because they want to be able to like tell everybody about Disneyland and go on stuff, and Teresa's like, I just want to ride things all day; it'll be fun. And talk about it.
Yeah, I like pointing stuff out to people. There's just so many things people walk past and don't even realize.
But the other job that's underrated by everybody, and we have friends that wrote books on this, is custodial, because they can kind of they're a lot more. They're maybe not as much as you are with being able to go everywhere, but they can go almost everywhere and have a reason for it. And they get to be out and about, and it sounds like from a lot of stories, I don't know if it's that way now, but when they worked there, that they had a lot of freedom to kind of, as long as they got their checklist stuff done, they could like wander around. Guests obviously see custodial a lot more than other people. They answer a lot of questions and are kind of guest service in and of themselves. But the question is, you already work for Disneyland, but if you could work at Disneyland, if you did a different job than what you do now, what would that job be? Now the sky's the limit, so this could be a made up job even. Or do you just have the perfect job that you love?
I kind of think that I do. I'm very curious. It's a good question. Probably, you know what? Maybe it's ambassador for Disneyland. Maybe it's that, because I have spent a lot of my time at Disneyland giving back to guests, and then also training cast members, and I would love to do the job that they do to represent the cast, because a lot of my job has been about you all, like people, either guest relations or taking people around the park. So that would be where I'm now putting the same energy and effort and time back into the cast members, and that's kind of what the ambassador role is, representing Disneyland and the cast members there. So I probably think that would be probably my easiest like half-hour response. I'm thinking of other things now, but I think that's probably the one I could think of like off the top of my head really quickly.
I'm really excited for D23, because I'm hoping that we get to meet the two new ambassadors, because we met Justin and Rafa at D23, and we met them again in the park one of the days, and they were amazing people. Like, they spent time. Justin commented that he had listened to our podcast. Now, this is when the podcast had kind of
was like newer.
And I was like, wow, that's amazing. And then we talked to him, of course, because one of the things that Teresa's like bucket list item for the podcast is to get on the media list. And he just said, you just got to keep trying. Like, it'll happen eventually. You just got to keep being persistent.
They are listening. They are watching. Well, they don't watch, like, they don't read the comment stuff. People are looking at it. They're looking at all.
I believe it.
They are listening, and that's how they will just reach out like, hey, we're interested in inviting you down. Like, they just come for you, but they're watching everything. They're listening.
They come for you.
They come for you.
That sounds ominous. There's going to be a knock on the door. Hey, guys, it's Mickey Mouse. Come on down to Disneyland. Well, Philander, thank you so much for spending, honestly, the last two interviews we've had, I'm looking at our recorder. It's been like 2.5 hours we've been talking to you.
Awesome.
Which is not what I expected. But totally amazing, and enough that if we could ever work it out again, we'd love to have you on again, because I feel like you have so much passion and knowledge to share with people. Obviously, also, if you are interested in following Philander online, where can people find you and follow you and learn more about you online after this interview?
What's my name, Philander, and then C85. That's usually where I'm talking history, just because I need to like be vomiting it constantly to people. So that's usually where I'm doing that. But also, I just post that stuff that I do, if it's history-based stuff, to that hashtag Imagineering Monday. I like writing. I started doing that actually almost 3 years ago now, just on a whim, because I realized that obviously there's a big fan base of people who like learning a lot of stuff. Then I noticed from all the people that shared Disney things, I was like laughing, like, nobody's sharing all this stuff that I know. Like, that's very interesting. Like, little things I like to point out. No one's talking about that. It's always the same things people are talking about. Like, did you know there's a basketball hoop in the mat? I'm like, yeah, I know about that. But no one's sharing like these really tiny things, like the one I did last week about that espresso machine that's in Cafe Orleans that's still there from when Wall was here. Like, I've never heard anybody talk about this. Like, oh, okay, I'll bring that up. So, or, you know, no one's talking about the windows or paying homage to like all these really incredible artists, you know, that don't get as much love, you know, like obviously everyone knows who Walt is, there's statues of him everywhere, but like, you know, do you know who Harriet Burns is? You know, or people have favorite rides and they have no idea who made them. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you have to read about, you know, Raleigh Crump and Mary Blair and Linda Von Castle and all these incredible like artists, you know, so I like giving them their due, you know, because they don't really get it. You know, they're not going to have statues or, you know, things built around them. So I like to focus on them. So I tell people if they would love to follow, go ahead. And I like posting history and stuff. You'll also see my daughter occasionally running around.
Your daughter's adorable, by the way.
She is so cute.
She's so funny. She now is at the point where she's 5, but now she's very hyper aware that I work at Disneyland. You know, before your kids don't know where you're going, there's like, oh, he's going to work. But now she's hyper aware I come to Disneyland every day. So she's constantly asking to come, and she gets mad. She's like, how come you get to go to Disneyland every day? You know,
and you get paid for it.
And I get paid for it. And she thinks that I'm like, you know, I have days where I'm actually like sending emails all the time, like actual work, but she thinks I'm just skipping up and down Main Street with Mickey Mouse, you know, all day long and eating churros, all her favorite things she thinks that I'm doing. So she's funny in that regard. But otherwise, if you don't care to see her, I definitely always leave that hashtag at the bottom, that Imagining Money hashtag. So I know people just follow hashtags, which is great. So I always tell people, I don't need follows like that. I really just love sharing that kind of stuff with people because they don't know about it. And it's easy to fall in love with Disneyland. Like you know, we talked about the surface level is easy, but when you break down and peel back like an onion, all these tiny things, I can see people's eyes light up when I show them these things that they've walked by for years. And they're like, oh, they get like a deeper appreciation for it. And I know that not everyone is going to be able to walk through the park with me at one point or take a tour with me, because I've shown stuff with my friends, I've walked with my family, but not everyone is going to get that chance. So that's why I wanted to start sharing that stuff, and why I make it a point to take pictures of it, so that hopefully when you go, you can find it yourself, you know, and share it with your friends. I don't need the credit for it. That's not important. I just like that the stories are being told. That's what matters to me, you know, because as we get further along in history, these stories become mythic or legendary. And now we're getting to the point where a lot of these individuals, they are passing away now. We're not going to have them anymore. So it's become more important than ever that these stories keep getting shared, so Disneyland is never just a theme park anymore.
Yeah.
You know, it's always, you know, history. And, you know, if you tell someone that you learned it from me, that's great. If not, if you just tell them it's fine. Like, I just like that it's being shared.
Yeah.
And that appreciation is being moved and passed along amongst people that are like you all, that care a lot, that like to bring up these specific things so that they aren't forgotten. You know, I am blown away by going to Disneyland with my daughter, because I put this other perspective on people that don't like change. My daughter is 5. She's growing up in a Disneyland that has always had Galaxy's Edge. She has no idea of anything prior to that. And that is stunning to think about. She knows a California Adventure that has Avengers Campus. I'm laughing that one day in the future, I will take her to Walt Disney World and she will see Tower of Terror and she'll go, this is just like that one at California Adventure. It drops, right? And she will have no idea unless I tell her that used to be Tower of Terror. Like, no context at all. She'll just see them as 2 dropping rides.
Yeah.
That blows my mind. And I always remind people, your Disneyland is different from everyone else's Disneyland. Kids love Disneyland right now as is. They don't look at it like, oh, I remember back when this used to be. They love Galaxy's Edge. They love Finding Nemo. They love Cars Land. They love Avengers Campus. You know, and to always remember that kind of stuff, because people get caught up way too much in that, like, the change, and like this next generation of kids, they love this stuff. They adore that place, and they love seeing Chewie and Rey. And that, you know, when you have a kid tell that to someone who's like, I wish they never put Galaxy's Edge in Disneyland, my daughter's like, why? Like, to her, that's like her favorite place, you know, like she, you know, kids don't look at it that way, and they may look at it when they get older, but it's always fascinating to see her perspective as a 5-year-old, you know, of Disneyland. And it's the best place in the world for her. And she won't see it as like, oh, they took out this and they took out that, you know. It's just fun, you know, it's fun and it's magical and it's special. and everything is like that lens of a kid, to not necessarily always look at things that way, but to always remember that Disneyland is not just for the people that have been going since they were, babies, or since like the opening day or the 60s or the 70s. Everyone has their own version of Disneyland that they love so much. So I just try to make sure that that history part is never forgotten, because we learn a lot from our history. Some things we don't want to repeat, because Disneyland has made mistakes before and it will make mistakes again. It's not perfect, and neither was Walt. I have to remind people that Walt was not perfect, and things that he put in, made a mistake and put it back out. Used to be able to buy lingerie on Main Street, and that lasted only for a few months. Now that was a mistake, so that was his decision to put that in there.
And there was a tobacco shop too.
There was a tobacco shop that's no longer there. They have rides they opened and they closed immediately because they didn't work out. Walt wasn't worried about it. Find the thing and make it work, and it sticks. So I just like to make sure that people, people have an area where they can find that history really well, because I am very proud of the fact that I get to storytell history to people, as opposed to anyone can read this stuff in a book. But my job at Disneyland, other than just obviously showing people around, is I get the opportunity to storytell, as an example, the Matterhorn with it right behind me. Yeah. And then I get to take someone on it right after that. And that kind of, there's a very tangible power to that, as opposed to just sitting at home and scrolling through Wikipedia, reading about the bobsleds, to actually see it and have someone tell you a story, to weave a tale and tell it in a unique way that entices them in, as opposed to documentaries are not always for everybody, and reading books aren't for everybody, different ways that you can story tell and to get people engaged in a thing that they're passionate about. And even passionate about it in the way, because I, like you all, I'm sure there was a time when you didn't love it the way you do now, and something drew you there like it did me. So I love that people are learning from me in that respect, and again, I don't need the credit. I just like that I'm able to facilitate these stories to people in a way that is bite-sized, because I think a lot of things I could obviously write as much as I talk, and that would be way too much. But these little bite-sized nuggets, and then I think people also like the consistency of it. Every Monday there's a new thing. And, that was way easier to do when we were closed. I can tell you that. So I still have not, spoiler alert, I have not written the one for Monday yet. I know what I'm doing, but I have to do it today or tomorrow before. And I can't do it tomorrow because I'm working. So I got to do it today.
Well, the other thing, just not to sell yourself short there, the other thing I like about following you on Instagram, first of all, your daughter's so adorable. And I love seeing when you take her to the park, or you guys are in downtown Disney, and her joy. And she puts her hair up. It looks like little mini ears and everything. It's gorgeous. But I also like that you watch the Disney Plus series. And then what I like is you usually will watch it the second it's available. So I wake up the morning after it launches, and I'm going, because the first thing I do is I go through social media while I'm in bed. And I see yours, and I like that you give a spoiler-free kind of synopsis of this was great character building, or this went in a really cool direction. I like to read your little bit of synopsis that gets me excited to watch the episode later in the day, or a couple days later, or whatever. And it's spoiler free, so people aren't freaking out that oh, this thing happened. But sometimes you'll allude to things, which makes me more excited to watch the episode, because it's oh, he said this thing. What does that mean? And then I'll watch it, I'll be wow, that was cool. So I appreciate that you do that. I appreciate that you share a little bit of your life, and of course all of your knowledge that you have, that you research and do all of this stuff for, and I'm sure our audience will love it. I know we had mentioned that you, I think, before in our chat that we have, and people are oh, I love following him. So you got a lot of people from our community that already follow you. They get a lot of the info, and I'm sure they're going to love hearing about you. So
you can't forget about the matchups, impossible matchups that you love to do. I love it. You know what though? There's I'm really bad at making decisions, because sometimes I'm it's like picking your favorite child or something. It's just sometimes you just can't. But I like that you kind of force people to be uncomfortable and put the it's not you are sorry, you got to choose, and I just put these two beloved things together. People have
also surprising
made it go that way with the different brackets. Yeah. So I always, even if I don't have the heart to actually click to vote, because I just can't choose. I just love thinking about it. And,
that's been fascinating, because that was another thing of me just being bored at home. So I was oh, let me just ask. And then obviously it became a much bigger deal. But Yeah, those are always fun. I've been mad because we've been training new customers, so I haven't done one. I have 2 coming up that I want to do. But now that we're in I do one more test for a new customer, and then I'm free. I have more time, so I can bring them back. But I have like 2 or 3 waiting in the wings to like come out. But yeah, those are always like fascinating, not only to see the result, one, but also the passion behind people.
Yeah.
I like I will always share people's like, I can't believe, people are so upset.
Sometimes I'm like, oh, I didn't realize there was such a like diehard fan base for, whatever it is.
Yeah, and I'll be surprised what won, and I'm like, how could that possibly have won? But I have the same reactions of you'll post when people get like send you funny stuff, and you'll post that. I am sometimes that person, but I just don't like post about it because I'm just like, I'll hit the buttons and I'll do my voting. But
because people are always like, I can't be the wrong one. Everyone else is wrong. Yeah.
I also like come on, people, hurry up and vote. Like we gotta, like trying to like garner more support so they can win.
People like, I'm calling in all my favors right now.
Yeah.
Everybody better come in and vote on his thing right now. I can't believe this person or this thing is
so
losing.
fun. It's so fun.
Yeah. Well, thank you again so much, Philander. I'm sure our audience is just going to love hearing all your stories.
It's okay. I'll be the only weekly tier without an answer. Make sure you send your questions to Producer James or Producer Vern at trivia@DLWeekly.net.
Welcome back to Trivia Land. We're just going to jump right in and see how Tig and Teresa did this week. Because I know they were feeling good.
How do you think we did?
I'm thinking we got 3 out of the 4.
3 out of the 4? That's not too bad. Now, you think both of us got 3 out of the 4?
No, but one of us got 3 out of the 4.
All right, so I got 2 out of 4. Okay.
Man, that means
I don't know. You might be right with your 2.
I don't know. We'll find out right now.
Yeah, let's just jump right into it. So the first question I asked was, what 2 characters are featured on the Lost Parents sign? Teresa, guiding you the right way. I'm just looking for Mr. and Mrs. Darling. So I will take that.
So that was a 0 for me.
That was a 0 for you?
Yeah, because I had Peter Pan and Wendy.
Oh, that's not what I heard. So thanks for self-reporting that incorrect answer.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Point taken.
Away.
The second question this week from listener Matt M. The Disneyland ride Midget Autopia moved after it closed in 1966 and reopened somewhere outside the area until 1977. Where did it go to? I'm giving you half points for Marceline, Missouri, but it moved to the city park.
Isn't it in Marceline, though?
It is in Marceline. Thus, half point.
Oh, okay. Bomb.
Little big to fit in a museum, don't you think?
Well,
we thought it was like outside the museum.
Yeah, I know. Just couldn't resist a little tease.
What if it's like next to the museum? How does that count?
I mean, I'm willing to adjust the score in hindsight.
Don't worry, he's Googling.
Oh, I'm sure.
I was just looking here. There is a small park next to the Hometown Museum, but nothing that I search on Google
says like that it's a Walt Disney
There's Walt
park?
Disney Elementary, and there's a baseball complex, but it's not the park. So I'm just going to go and say you're right, James. So
Me? Okay.
Yep.
I was about to say, all right, if you want the half point that bad.
No.
If I give you the half point,
These imaginary
okay.
points are very
That's okay.
important, I know. Our third question this week was, in It's a Small World, how many dolls represent the U.S.? And you two mentioning Jessie and Woody made me realize I'm probably too short on mine. So the answer I'm going to go with after hearing that is 4.
Oh.
Because in the final room, there is a cowboy and a Native American. But otherwise, the U.S. is not included.
Oh. So it is just Jessie and Woody in that room.
Was I right?
No. 4. There's 4 total. There's Jessie and Woody, but then there's 2 in the like finale room.
Okay.
Dang, now I'm gonna have to pay attention. I thought that there was like little dolls in the background. Now I'm gonna have to.
Small World is a very cool tour when you do a little bit of digging into it. Future ideas.
At least we were both wrong.
Yeah, better be wrong together. And our final question this week, inspired by Family Feud, I surveyed several of our weekly tiers, asking a bunch of questions that you can find on our patron-only bonus episode. But the question that we get to hear for everyone is, what attraction do you think goes the fastest? And the top answer, the Incredicoaster.
Yeah!
Well done, you two. The rest of the board, had we played, would have been Space Mountain, Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout, Splash Mountain, and
Ooh.
Radiator Springs Racers.
Guardians. I wouldn't have thought of Guardians, but that, yeah. I don't know. I can't tell how fast I'm moving up and down. Half the time, I don't know if I'm moving up or down.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I was trying to fix sound issues.
Incredicoaster was right.
Incredicoaster, sweet. I just had to pump the volume up, guys.
Pump up the volume, pump up the volume.
So what was the final score?
2.5 for Teresa and 1.5 for Tay.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
So not quite those 3 points that you were hoping for, but that
depends on if we round or not.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Tag would have just fought a little harder for that half point.
That's okay.
All right, Weekly Tiers, how'd you do at home? I hope you had a fun round. I think TNT did as well. If you want to help us keep this going, you can send us some trivia questions in for producer Vern and I to use. Our email is trivia@dlweekly.net.
We will be back next week with more Disneyland news and information.
Until then, go out and enjoy the parks.
Please remain seated until the podcast comes to a complete stop and the doors have opened. Then collect your belongings, watch your head, and step carefully from the episode. On behalf of all of our crew, thanks for traveling with us. And we hope you have a happy and memorable visit here at DL Weekly.